announce the team. Just two things that I just want to mention. Firstly, it's the under 21 games is moved from tomorrow to today, and then the team is going to be playing in a specialized jersey in terms of the numbering, honoring Cornell. What you might see is that there won't be a number 14 on the field. So it's not that the number 14 is retired, because you can't do that, but for the rest of our season, for as long as we remain in the competition, as far as I understand it, we will not be playing in that number. I hope that makes sense.
Is there another number? Or
so whoever will be at 14 will either play in a 23, 24, depending on size. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, the team, guys, it's Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Jan Grobler, Hulka Louw, Kobus Wiese, Jeff van Heerden, Marcel Coetzee, Roan Nokia, and Cameron Hanekom. And the bench will be Simpiwe Matanzima, Aka van der Merwe, Mornay, Smith, Marco van Staden, and Johannes Kirsten. And then the backs will be Ambrose comes back in again. So Ambrose, Keegan, Sebastian and Kanan on the wings, Harold and David at centres, and Willie Leroux at fullback. And on the bench will be Zach, Stedman, Hans, and Devin Williams. That's the 23. You got that? You got it, I guess. Okay.
Cool. Can we start with Kobus and then we'll come to you?
Jack, just looking at the pack, obviously, in the backs, obviously there's an injury or two, but that pack, it's pretty much the strongest pack that you can choose. Even if you think that guys like the box, like Gerald, Stennekamp, and Elrich's not available, that's a very decent pack of forwards.
Correct. And Rowan Vermaak. So also, you know, look at the guy like Rowan Vermaak who's played lots of lock for us. So those three not available, but still, I mean, I'm very happy with that. You know, this time of the year to have that kind of forward pack to run out is, and then, you know, guys like Simpiwe, Aka, Mornay, Jonas, and Marco on the bench is, you know, Jonas has won a European Cup with Exeter. Marco's a World Cup winner. Aka's a Springbok. So, and Mornay and Simpiwe both played South African A. So, good bench for as a pack of forwards as well.
And just looking at Jan-Hendrik Wessels, obviously with Gerard out, he's getting a good run there. He's really growing in that position.
He's good. I mean, he's been a schoolboy prodigy and everyone spoke about him for this, you know, and played lock in standard 9, played prop in matric, he's played hooker for us, played, you know, so I mean, he's talented, and I said many times to you guys, he's too good to not play. You know, not one of those guys who can wait around while Ox, Gerard, kids off at that stage with all the frontline loose heads. And then you've got Mchunu now, obviously, as well as also a Springbok loose head. I just felt that it would be important for us to get him in the mix, and it's worked out. You know, it doesn't always work out for everyone, but I mean, it's worked out without Gerard, and him play the way he has also helped us and helped him at the same time.
Because Jack, obviously you've been involved in a lot of finals, quarterfinals, semi-finals. Does this mean anything different this week for you guys in terms of preparation? Now we spoke a lot about it on Tuesday, obviously with Conor Hendricks, but has this been a different mindset for you going into this week?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Sim when he asked me the other day, and I made the comment about, as a coach, you also have to evaluate where you are. And I mean, I've done this many times, and I'm not saying this in an arrogant way. I've been lucky enough to experience these feelings of going into these knockout games in different competitions, as you know, Ronaldo. And is it different? It's very different, this one, because this group of players has, I told you before as well, that this group has exceeded expectation early on. I mean, in the first year to play in a final when the average age was about 23 years old, you know, to get to another final last year, and whatever reason we didn't pull that one through. It happens in sport. So it's different because I get the feeling we're maturing as a group. Yes, there have been additions to the squad, like Willie Leroux coming in, and I'm talking about he's older and he's an experienced player. But what's happened is the Grobises and the Roan Nokias and the Simpiwe Matanzimas and have all grown up as a junior squad in their formative times. And I do feel it's different. I just feel the vibe's different. I feel the lessons they learned are a lot more meaningful now because they've played together a lot more, you know. And but it's still knockout rugby. I mean, it's still the nice time to play rugby. I mean, everyone who's played rugby and anyone who's played at this level will tell you these are the games you want to play. You want to be fit, healthy, ready, and available to be selected in these massive games. You know, because these are the ones that you wait for in your career. And you know, we don't worry about what happens next week or who we could play or whatever. Quarterfinals with a Scottish team that have got internationals, I think, in every position. And that's also what I'd like you guys to understand is, I mean, it might not be a team that people know that well, but they still got an international in every single position. And some of them, I think they might even have internationals on their bench in every position as well. So, you know, it's not a fait accompli that you just come along and you win a quarterfinal. I mean, it's still a big game, and I still take it like that. I still talk myself into the fact that we must never take it for granted that you get into these knockout games.
And then last year, obviously the final, there was a lot said about the altitude. I know Edinburgh only arrived here on Wednesday. Do you think that's going to have an effect this weekend? I know a lot of people say it might not do, but I mean, I've played stuff.
Yeah, I can tell you that there is a reason why sports teams and sports athletes that are Olympians train at altitude. So, there's a reason.
Okay. Just Edinburgh, the contest against them has always been quite close, even though it seems to favour the home team. The history of the seems to favour the home team. Break them down for us. What is it that sort of gets them that close to you guys? What is it that makes it so difficult for you guys to beat them?
I think the most important thing that they can do is they just don't go away. I mean, they're quite competitive. You know, it's not just against us. You look at any games that they played, they stay in the fight, and they've got international rugby players. I don't ever want you to ever underestimate the value of what an international cap does for a player. I mean, you look how our players have grown. You look at a guy like Rowan Nokia when he got here compared to him now. When you've played the All Blacks twice and beaten the All Blacks as a Springbok, you must become a better provincial rugby player. It just happens like that. And so if you take that Edinburgh group, a lot of them have played against England at Twickenham, or they've played the All Blacks, or they've played South Africa, or they've, you know, and when you have that experience and you play at that level, when you come back to your club, it doesn't matter which country or which club you play for, it's got to have a positive effect on your performances. And so I just think that they're not. I mean, I read somewhere you guys wrote as well. They're the 15th biggest rugby club in the world in terms of budget. So I mean, I don't think sometimes people understand that. You know, that Edinburgh is a big club, lots of money, lots of internationals. You look at, I mean, they got Skuman and Van der Merwe that are both British and Irish Lions for this campaign. They had Hamish Watson, that's a British Lion. They had, you know, I don't want to go through all the names, but you guys will know they've had lots of British and Irish Lions players out of that Scottish group as well. And I mean, there's no doubt that a guy who plays British Irish Lions or Scottish rugby, or, you know, at any level against any team must be a better player than sometimes you give them credit for.
I spoke with Sean yesterday, and apart from obviously trying to do whatever Glasgow did well last year, and the second part of that is obviously, you know, ignoring altitude. The one thing he said was they're going to try and make sure that you guys don't get a fast start, because he actually gave the number. Apparently you guys got 29 tries in the first 20 minutes, which is obviously a tournament high, and conceded 10 or something like that. When a team is set up to stall like that, how do you counter?
No, you know, Sim, I mean, it's a cliche for all coaches. Everyone wants a fast start. Everyone wants to play 80 minutes. Everyone wants to dominate set piece. Everyone wants to, I mean, those are all the good teams talk. I'm sure what they do and they copy and paste what they want to get out of every game is no different to any team. It's just the badge will be different. In other words, whether it's Leinster on the back of their change room, or whether it's the Bulls on the back of their change room, everyone wants to. And there's no recipe, or there's no secret waving wand where you can go, oh no, don't worry, we will get a better start than them tomorrow. Sometimes it's about how you handle the first 10, 15 minutes, how much ball you get, whether you make a mistake. You know, I mean, you can knock on the first kickoff, and then you you end up giving them a scrum in your 22. So no, there isn't. I mean, Sean's right. I mean, every team is vying for that good start. You know, when you play away, you want to score quickly so that the crowd gets quiet as well, and everyone talks about that as well. But you know, I don't think there's a way a coach can guarantee, or a team can guarantee that you'll either not get one or we will definitely get one. I think it's just the nature of how the game sometimes pans out. I'm glad you did mention though that there is a stat that we are quite high up. I saw the other stats which obviously we weren't that high up, so I'm glad there is another stat that the Bulls have got on top of the list as well.
Last one from me. In the history of the competition, you've only not made the semi-finals once, and you've obviously made the finals twice.
Yeah.
Is there a danger at quarterfinal level of kind of like thinking too far ahead because you've been here so often, and what you really want to fix is, you know, what
No, I think in any sporting team, I mean, anyone who again would have followed enough sport to know, quarterfinals are always games you're up for. Semi-finals are the ones the hardest to win because finals take care of themselves. And that's why, you know, a lot of teams will struggle, and it just happens in sport. I'm not talking about rugby. There's always maybe an upset at semi-final time because there's a lot more to lose at semi-final than there is in the final, because once you get to the final, it's almost like everything takes care of itself. So yeah, there's no. I think what's a blessing for us is we lost to them a couple of weeks ago. I think had we beaten them there and maybe won easily, then there would probably be a feeling of, gee, you know, we whacked them or we beat them away or whatever. I think that the blessing for us is that we lost to them, and that means that we know, and we gave them a good start. I mean, they were 24-7 up at half time. So, I mean, those lessons, both in what you've asked me, surely then must be as clear as day. We can't give them a 24/7 start, and also we can't believe that we're just going to beat them if they beat us the last time we played.
Jake, just following on something you said, semi-finals are upset, but I think some quarterfinals that you've been involved in have given you a lot of grey hairs. I think Fiji in 2007, even last year Benetton. They came back, made it very tough for you guys there at the end there as well. So there is, I suppose, a danger that it almost feels that if you don't get through a quarterfinal, then the season could be, I won't say a failure, but it could be you haven't got to where you want to be. It is like that. And again, the lesson I learned in Fiji, or that Fiji game, was what happened the day before. You know, one of the most famous stories John Smith ever told the players under the polls was, he said, do you remember how those, you know, Australian supporters looked on TV, or how the Kiwi supporters looked in the quarterfinals in Wales when they lost to France? And so the lessons he had seen on Friday and on Saturday, when Australia were obviously knocked out by England, I mean, those were lessons that he could use in that, you know, in that stadium against Fiji. So you're right. I mean, it is something that can happen. You can get to a quarterfinal, but I just think from experience, and especially with South African sides, the final, once you get to the final, it sort of takes care of itself. You know, the players, you don't have to say much. The hype, the buzz, the whole build up to the final is one of those things that propels you. And semi-finals are the ones where I find you can start thinking a little bit ahead, and you start also. You got to be careful of what you talk about. You know, you can't talk too far ahead, but you also can't talk that it's a banana peel, because inevitably when you use those words, then players remember that too. It's like a golfer. If you say chips the water on a short hole, it's guaranteed he's going in the water. So you got to sometimes just be careful how you manage that. But getting back to, we've got Edinburgh. They've beaten us 3 out of the last 5 times. That means, doesn't matter where it was, they've beaten us 3 out of 5 times. They've got a whole bunch of international players, and the history of the comp, which you guys are referring to. It's not a team that hasn't it's finished first since South African teams have been playing in this competition, haven't won. So in other words, it doesn't matter how many points you got and how far you ahead on points in the last 4 seasons, you didn't end up winning this competition, and that is something we're very mindful of. You know, coming second and getting 6 more points than the Sharks, it's irrelevant now. You know, getting whatever amount of points more than Edinburgh it's now become a three competition game, basically. You win three games, you win the comp.
Just on the last game against Edinburgh, they gave you guys quite a bit of problems at the breakdown.
Yeah.
And also just part of that question, I suppose, is Marcel's been playing some great rugby for you in the since he's come back from his concussion.
Yes.
Just the thoughts that with a guy like Marco on the bench, it's not many teams that can leave a World Cup winner out of their starting line.
Yeah.
So just that thought process between the two of them.
I mean, last week we started Nama, or the week before we started Nama and put Marcel on the bench, and that worked for us as well, because he scored a great try, Marcel, when he came on, which meant again, he added impact for us at the back end of the game. It isn't when I say it isn't often that you get a World Cup winner on the bench, but it's also nice to know that if the game goes into the 80th minute and we have guys like Akka van der Merwe, who's a Springbok, Marco, who's a World Cup winning Springbok, coming on, there's no reason why that's not going to make us stronger at the back end of the game as well. So it's who knows, in the next week or two, if we're still playing, Marco might start and Marcel might be on the bench. So I just think for this week it's what we need in order to get through this game.
And just last one, just cards, obviously a premium knockout game, so you're going to have cards. Has there been any talk, or do you think that's just something?
No, Brent, I talk about that because I think that that's not an elephant in the room. That is a stat that you need to understand. If you look at any of these knockout games, you look at the European Cup games on the weekend, cards and sightings afterwards of Bath player who misses the next 4 weeks, whatever. So no, there's no doubt in my mind that is something we talk about. These are the games where you've got to be at your best in all aspects. The way you play, the way you prepare, in all your actions, whatever. These are the games where the best players get those things right, and that's you can't avoid that. As a coach, that you've got to address that and then test them. Say, listen, have you learned in the last couple of years what works and what doesn't work? And one of them is you have to have no cards, 15 people on the field, and you have to play for 80 minutes. Those are givens.
Coach Jan Goosen being injured, and that a lot of faith being put in Keegan Johannes. What's your thinking behind the last part of the game? Is Willie going to move to 10 maybe if it needs to be, if something happens to Keegan? Is that the backup plan?
Yeah. So Willie will go to 10 and then Devon will go to fullback, which has worked for us. And then David will kick for goals, which has also worked for us. I think he's won 2 games for us, one against Leinster, one against Benetton. So I'm comfortable. It's happened. We've ticked that box. They've prepared in those scenarios. So you can only control, as you know, you can only control what you can control, and I'm very happy and comfortable that if we have to go that way, they've got enough prep in their game and enough prep with their combinations to feel like we could finish that off.
There's lots of talk about the way well Keegan's actually performed in that jersey. I mean, has that exceeded your expectations? I mean, that guy's shooting the lights out.
I'm so happy. I mean, he is a 10, and he was at Garsfontein as a 10. We moved him to 9. I'm talking about us, but he moved along to 9. And he's played well. He's played well. I think he's going to stay at 10 now. I mean, we obviously signed Paul de Vet next year. We got Zach Berger now, and then we've got Emmy. So there's no reason for us to move him back to 9. And so he'll stay as a 10, and we'll keep running him as a 10 in our training sessions. But I mean, it's sometimes, again, and I say tongue in cheek, it's coaching. It's also got to give credit to guys like Chris Smith and those guys. I mean, Chris Rousseau. I've got to be careful because they keep calling Cornell, and it's Cornell. I got told off in the funeral. In Pretoria, he's Cornell, and in Cape Town, he's Cornell. Sorry, Cornell and Cornell all around. But anyway, the point I'm making is I think I'll give Chris Rousseau a lot of credit as well. When the guy comes in, he's got a good pass, he's quick, he's got a good boot. So, I mean, there's no reason why he wasn't going to fulfill a job, especially with the senior players he has around him. Don't underestimate a guy like Willie coming into 10 now and then and pushing him out. It also helps him, not feel like he's under the pump all the time.
This experiment with Ruan, is that because of the line-out option? I mean, are you happy with that going? Clearly, you think that there's a future there? Yeah,
well, I do think he'll play for South Africa in that position as well. I genuinely do. I think with the locks we have in this country, I mean, there's no reason why he can't fulfill a role at 7. You know, and I was lucky enough, coached Peter Steff as a youngster and moved Peter Steff to 7. So I just see similarities in that. He just adds some more to your game. He line out wise, it's, you know, he's obviously hell of important for us as line out jumper. But he also plays. I mean, he plays 80 minutes and he runs, and his work rate is incredible. You know, I mean, even that try that I told you about with Marcel, he was the guy who made the last pass. You know, and that was as a flanker running on the edge of the edge of the touchline. So it is working, and for now it's what we need. At Ulrich Benia, you know, then we might have had to juggle the pack a different way, and maybe then a guy like Marco would have started. You know, it just depends on how we were going to go into a fixture, but it's working for us now, having and also, you know, I can't go away from the fact that Jeff van Heerden's playing really well. And Jeff van Heerden is, for a youngster, is doing his job. His work rate's good, his line out is good. So the combination, it's working for us.
On the subject of Ulrich, just quickly, I saw him on Tuesday, you know, putting his good talks on and everything. And how far is he still next year?
Yeah, no, he'll be February next year if I'm lucky. But again, and I said it to him, we're not going to rush him. We're not going to. I don't want to, you know, whether it's January or whether it's February, it's not going to make any difference. We must make sure we look after him, that he's ready when he comes back. I can believe that, and I've seen it many times. This is the easy part because there's no contact, there's no running, there's no changing of direction, there's no people trying to tackle you from the side. I mean, I think when we get closer to that mental picture, we're obviously going to have to spend a lot more time in getting ready.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks.
Percy in Afrikaans?
Thank you very much, Luca. Check wat, goeiemorgen. Jammer dat ik laat is, meneer. Check uit als police vir verdachte soek in my area, daarom is ek bietjie laat hierso. Maar net met, Jake, kan ek jou vra? Eerstens, is het vir Jake White, die ervare Afrika in jou span, is het 'n voorreg vir julle om weer in so 'n posisie te wees, 'n uitklop posisie te wees? Of beskou jy en as jou span dat julle verdien om hier in die kwartfinale van die kompetisie te wees?
Nee, dit sal altyd 'n voorreg wees. En ek sê altyd vir spelers, jy moet nooit onderskat wat dit voel om te wen nie, om titels te wen nie. I mean, een van die beste spelers in die wêreld, John Alone, het nooit die wêreldbeker gewen nie. En dit wys jou net. I mean, Skalk Burger en John de Villiers is nooit die Curriebeker gewen nie. En hulle is 2 uitsondere rugby spelers wat baie gedoen het vir Suid-Afrika en vir die Stormers. Nooit die WP met WP die Curriebeker gewen nie. Nou dit wys jou net, jy weet, as jy 'n geleentheid kry of jy is in 'n situasie waar jy bekers kan wen en jy kan groot wedstryde wen, dan moet jy dit geniet. En jy moet daai opportunity vat. So dit sal nooit wees. I mean, ek weet by die Bulle daar's 'n verwagting van ons skare en van ons ou spelers en van almal wat die Bulle ondersteun dat ons moet wen. Ons almal verwag ons moet wen, maar dit sal altyd vir my 'n groot eer wees en dit sal altyd nooit maklik wees om net te dink dit gaan gebeur. Daar's nog steeds baie dinge wat moet werk en wat jy moet doen om hierdie games te speel en wen.
Ek het al deurgangs hierdie week gepraat van die statistiek tussen die Bulle, die Bulls en natuurlik Edinburgh toe op. Julle is pas genoem 3 uit 5 wedstryde het julle verloor teen hulle meneer. Ek gebruik soms gekeerde taal wat Afrika is nie van hou nie, maar het julle 'n appeltjie te skil teen Edinburgh of kan ek ask you, het julle 'n punt om te wys in Edinburgh hierdie keer?
Ja.
Hoekom is dit so belangrik vir julle?
Nee, because it's 'n uitspelwedstryd. So dit beteken vir my dit was nie van Edinburgh nie. Dit is 'n punt vir ons te bewys ons moet goed speel teen wie ook al. I mean, daar was 'n skop in die laaste minuut teen die Sharks gewees met die Scarlets. Ons sou die Scarlets gespeel het. En dan sal my antwoord presies dieselfde gewees het. Is dit nou 'n appeltjie wat jy moet skil? Ja, ons moet hierdie een wen. Ons wil in die semi speel en in die final speel en die beker wen. So dit gaan nie oor Edinburgh nie. En die ander ding is, jy weet, dinge is veranderd. Ons speel nou tuis, is 'n gras pitch. Hulle speel met 'n 4G pitch. Jy weet, dis nou Mei maand, ons het hulle in September maand gespeel. Jy weet, toe hulle laas hierso was, hulle span was anderste, ons span was anderste, so dis heeltemal anderste om te dink, net omdat, jy weet, hulle daar gewen het of ons hier gewen het, gaan dit gebeur. Ons moet net seker maak ons is op ons beste. En ek het baie keer vir julle gesê, Percival, elke span wil die laaste 3 weke hulle beste speel, hulle beste spelers beskikbaar hê en hulle beste 80 minute kan deurtrek. En dis niks anders dan nie. Ons is nou in die pylvlak, 3 games oor. As ons aanhou wen, dan bly ons lewendig en ons wil seker maak ons beste spelers is 100% reg en speel hulle beste rugby in die volgende 3 weke.
Sorry, ek sê laas die 23-tal wat jy gekies het, ek obvious vraag, jy is natuurlik gemaklik met hierdie samestelling van hierdie span wat jy gekies het vir môre se uit.
Ja, 100% gemaklik. Met 'n coach, ek het weer eens vir jou baie keer gesê en coach kry nooit sy beste 23 span nie. Nooit. I mean, ek is Springbok aflikter gewees, ek is in Montpellier gewees, ek was in Brumbies gewees. Een speler kom terug, die ander een is beseer. Een speler kom terug en die ander speler moet, jy weet, na sy kind se geboorte toe gaan. Of een speler, jy weet, is siek en die ander speler, so jy kry nooit jou beste 23 en soos hulle nou is ek heeltemal tevrede van wat ons het en wie beskikbaar is dit die beste 23 wat ek op die veld kan sit môre teen Edinburgh. Baie dankie.
Thank you.